Hey guys, it's Holly Wizzle. I just actually wanted to give a quick shout out to Papa Midnight for doing my channel art. You can follow him on Twitter at Horror Anarchy. I'll link it down below so you can contact him if you need something. He's from the Dark Waters family. I want to thank them too. And also Unit 522. Keep an eye out for our collaboration together. And I'm about to hit 1K. It's a milestone for me. So we got a collaboration coming up with Joey's Nightmares and some other people. Get back to you on that. Enjoy. So this happened to be about 5 years ago when I was 18. I had decided to take a break from my longtime high school boyfriend after graduation because he was 2 years older than me and just a complete control freak. I was hanging out with my friend Jenna most of the time, not doing too much other than smoking weed and hanging out with all of our friends, when life was simple. To set the story, I'm a petite blonde, and not to sound in any way overly confident, but especially back then, I was pretty good looking at the time, meaning I was in shape and dressed well. So from time to time, I would, like any other girl, get creepy Facebook messages from random strangers telling me I was pretty or they wanted to take me out, etc. One day when my friend Jenna and I were sitting at her friend Tommy's house, I saw I had received a Facebook message from a guy named Chadley, apparently an Abercrombie model. This man was in top physical shape. Like he was one of those guys that stood outside of Abercrombie stores with his shirt off. Not my type at all, but I wasn't not going to talk to a hot guy. Sorry I got off topic. Basically, Chadley sent me a message saying, "Hey, you look familiar. Have we met before?" So, different approach than other men who came on too strong at first. Mind you, I wasn't looking for a boyfriend, or to talk to any guys. I guess at the time, I was just happy getting the attention. I think it boosts anyone's self-esteem. So the conversation goes as followed. Me. I don't think I've ever met you before. Chadley. Maybe I just saw you at a party or something. I just saw your Facebook and you looked so familiar, and you're gorgeous. I just had to ask. Me. Thank you, I appreciate it. Then we started to conversate about what schools we were from, our exes, and so on. At the time, I was very interested in cars. My whole family works in that industry, and I was telling him what my dream cars would be. He seemed nice and normal at first. Eventually, he asked me to come hang out at his house. He lived in a very upscale town and neighborhood, so I thought to myself, heck, why not? It's not like I'm doing anything else productive with my time. So I head over to his house around 8 p.m. on a cold, wintry evening. As soon as I arrive, he greets me at the door. Thankfully, he was just as good looking in person as he was in his pictures, and leads me into what looks like a poorly put together office. Inside, he pulls up his computer screen. Mind you, this happens like instantly, so it was just plain weird. And he literally had YouTube pulled up, and the search bar was fast cars. And he was showing me a video of a car going really fast. Like, cool, dude. I proceeded to act amused by it, and then he asked me if I wanted to watch a movie with him. I accepted, and he put something in. I can't remember what it was, but it was something with Nicolas Cage. Just the whole vibe of him was weird, but at the same time, I guess I kept ignoring it because of how good looking he was. So after the night was over, I said goodbye and left, promising to link up again soon. He literally texts me not even seconds after I walk out the door. Chadley. Hey, text me when you get home. Okay, so I get home and tell him I'm safe. Good night. And he insists on keeping the conversation going. Chadley. What are you doing tomorrow? Me. Probably nothing after school. Chadley. Would you want to go out to eat? Me. Okay, sure. So once again, I head over to this house later in the evening, and we get in his beat-up Honda and drive to an Outback nearby. So we walk in and sit down, and there was a wait. He keeps looking at his phone, like he's waiting for something. Finally, it lights up as he's getting a call from a friend. Chadley. Hello? Yeah, man, I can't talk about football right now. I'm on a date. Yeah, the girl I was telling you about. Okay, I'll call you back later. And he hung up. Still getting weird vibes from him, I proceeded on with the date. Something about him is just off-putting, and it felt like he was moving too fast with me. All I could think about was going home and not talking to him anymore. He just wasn't my type. So once we get back to his house, he asked me to come inside. Sorry, I think I need to go home. It's late and I'm tired. He looks upset. Just come in for a second. I just want to show you something cool. Red flag. But my young self was down for whatever, so I said sure, fine. We walked inside and are instantly, and I mean almost as if they were standing on the other side of the door waiting for me, greeted by this guy's mom and dad. Mom, oh hi Chadley, is this the girl you keep talking about? What the fuck? I literally met him like 2 days ago and have hung out with him twice. Chadley, yeah, she's great. Dad, well, we'll leave you two alone. Hey, check out the swimming pictures on the mantle. He's a real awesome swimmer, he says to me. Okay, nice to meet you, I say, and want to nope the fuck out of there. But not before Chadley kept trying to talk my ear off. So, I want to be in the FBI when I graduate, and then I want to be an Abercrombie & Fitch model. Like on the shopping bags. He literally sounded like a child. Okay, Chadley, I'm sorry, but I really need to leave, I say. He walks me out to my car and just stands there awkwardly, expecting me to kiss him. But hell no. I jump in my Jeep and wave bye and back out. He was just an odd fellow, and I wasn't at all interested. Now that you have the backstory, here's where it gets weird. So the next few days, I keep getting consistent texts from Chadley. Every day it just started as hey. And for a little, I said hey back because I didn't want him to think I was rude. I don't know why I even cared. I'm not even that friendly. I think I was just worried my psycho ex-boyfriend I was on a break with would find out. Thankfully, I was going to Florida that week and had a legit excuse as to why I couldn't see him. But every day he just kept sending me hey. And my responses kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter, to the point where I wasn't even responding. But that didn't stop Chadley. He kept texting me every single day for almost 2 months after I stopped responding to him. Eventually, it was just getting annoying, and I blocked his number. Then I started getting calls from random numbers, calls from private numbers, nonstop. I picked up a few times, and there was no one there. Then I would get another phone call and pick it up, and I could hear a man in the background. It was Chadley. I stopped answering my phone. Then I kept getting Facebook messages from him. Hey. That's all he would ever say, repeatedly. Hey, 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 hey. I was so annoyed. I blocked him again. That should be the last time I hear from him, I thought. Wrong. So literally an entire 2 years later, I get involved with another guy. We're still together, and things are going great. One day, I get a message on Facebook while I'm at work from a man named Chadley. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I open it and it says, hey stranger, how have you been? And of course I didn't respond. But before I could even block him, he writes back, okay, you little fucking bitch. You could just play nice and say hi back, but you don't have to be a total bitch about it. Like, whoa, Chadley, what? Before I could even respond, I get a text to my phone. Can you guess what it said? Hey, right after he just freaked out on me on Facebook. I wrote back, take a hint, bro. Leave me the fuck alone. To which I have no idea what his response was because I blocked him immediately afterwards. So thankfully, that's the end of my run-ins with Chadley. But it's not the end of the story. So one day I was with my friend Claire, and she had her Facebook Messenger pulled up, showing me a message from an ex of hers. When I see Chadley in her messages. And guess what this creepy fuck messaged her? Hey, you look familiar. Have we met before? I asked her about it. She said he kept trying to get her to come over and she declined because he wasn't her type. Then, a year later, I get a job as a general manager for a fine dining restaurant. One of my employees and I recognized upon hire was Chadley's ex-girlfriend's sister. After getting to know her a little better, my curiosity got the best of me. I asked her what he was like. Guess what her response was? Apparently, Chadley met her sister on Facebook after asking, "Hey, you look familiar, have we met before?" And when this girl agreed to date him after a month, he was already becoming obsessive. Apparently, Chadley had stalked her for years after and ended up tracking her down at her new boyfriend's house and started an altercation. Complete freak. So, creepy Facebook stalker Chadley, please don't message me ever again. And please let's not meet again. This is a quick story about a stalking experience that just happened yesterday. It hasn't been resolved yet, and although I wasn't the primary target, a group of my friends, including myself, were still involved. It was certainly terrifying and a huge slap in the face from reality to always make sure you're aware of your social media following and privacy. We have an iMessage group chat going on with about 7 friends, including myself. One of my friends, Kay, is kind of annoying and gets on all of our nerves, but we tolerate her. Kay sends us a screenshot of a conversation with her younger cousin, who's either a senior in high school or a freshman in college. He tells her that he's on Tumblr, and that a photo of Kay showed up on his feed. He proceeded to reblog. Like, I don't use Tumblr, so I'm not sure how it works, and show her. Kay is confused because the photo's a random selfie from her Instagram, which she rarely uses, and it's set to private. In addition, neither she nor any of the people in this group chat even use Tumblr. She asks her cousin for the link to the site. Upon skimming the website, we find, to our horror, that the Tumblr is brimming with photographs of all 5 girls in the group chat, individual posts with personalized captions of photos taken from our respective Instagrams, most of which are private. The further back we viewed the page, the creepier it got, because it seemed like the whole page was targeting one particular girl in our group, Q. 90% of the photos the individual posted were just of Q, mostly taken from her Instagram. There were love poems dedicated to her, sentimental captions accompanying some photos such as Q and her loving parents, and some photos that were obtained from her Facebook account, despite all the settings being private. The owner of the Tumblr seems to be an adult male from a different country to where we live, who occasionally posted things that were more personal to him, such as photos of an ice skating rink in his childhood neighborhood, or a YouTube link to homemade footage from like 8 years ago that he helped produce. The owner of the account doesn't even seem to be the same person as the owner of the Tumblr. Through our investigation, the person does seem to be real, though the primary purpose of the site looked like a shrine of some sorts dedicated to Q. There were in fact other posts, such as lyrics to random old songs by obscure artists, which hinted at the owner's page. There were photos pulled from my own Instagram, such as zoomed in and cropped and my face taken out from the group shot. The most horrifying part was one of the older photos we had posted. This photo was not just one of Q's pulled from her social media. It was a photograph of 2 real framed photos in the person's home of Q. The caption for the photo indicated that the stalker had been dedicated to her since 2012. 2012! We came across this Tumblr in 2017. Needless to say, we were all thoroughly stunned and frightened. We have no idea what to do. Q proceeded to send an angry message to the owner via some other link on their page, and just like that, the page was deleted. We have no more leads, although I've been doing my own research and trying to find out the identity of the person. I'm not even sure what we can do from here, seeing how we no longer have evidence except screenshots of the site that we took. Any advice would be appreciated. Remember the mid-90s? They were some bodacious times. Times when my parents bought a really expensive cordless phone, the kind that was very strong and with an external antenna. I was 12 years old and in a healthy routine of calling my parents after walking the 2 blocks home from school. It was my time by myself before one of my parents came home with my sister from daycare. I got a popsicle and started to suck on it. I sat down in the living room and turned on the phone and dialed my mother's work number. I didn't bother to wait and listen for a dial tone, I just dialed. I brought the phone back up to my ear and listened for a ring. I heard nothing for a second, and then I heard a man's voice speak clearly.
Hi, H385. You sound really hot. I too like high-end shopping and jet skis. If you want some adventure in your life, reply to me, T877.
This guy was dull. He sounded like your everyday Midwest white guy, with a stash and glasses. Visually, I imagined someone like Kip from Napoleon Dynamite. I was fascinated by his ads. He really liked walks on the beach, cuddling, and soft rock. What a catch, right? I listened to him spout out a few more boring responses to what I now figured was a phone messaging dating service. I broke my silent cover by slurping loudly on my popsicle, and that's when I stopped being curious.
Who's on the line?
I sat in silence, hoping he wasn't one of my neighbors.
I heard you sucking on something good. You must be heaven sent.
And I heard him muffle groans. At first, I didn't understand and turned my phone off in fear. I turned it back on and still heard him telling me to gag for him. I knew exactly what was going on now. I was afraid and equally afraid that my mom would be angry at me for not having called her. I ran into the master bedroom where I unplugged the phone line and tried to hit the reset button. I turned the phone back on and heard him groaning loudly. I screamed into the phone and heard him shriek in equal dismay. I slammed the phone down on the cradle and searched my house for a hard line phone I knew we had in a closet. I plugged it in and called my mom. I told her I was sorry for not calling her earlier. I never told her about the jack-off phone hijack. I asked to have a landline phone in a different part of the house. I didn't like using that particular cordless one after that. I always kept an eye out on my neighbors and tried to match any mousy voice to a face. I never had to face that sad, lonely, creepy man, but let's never meet. What I'm about to tell you happened a while back when I was around 13 or 14 years old. I'm now 18. I had just made myself a Facebook account, and I had a huge crush on this guy who used to be my neighbor and had just moved out off my street. I was super sad that I wouldn't see him again, until a beautiful surprise one night, opening my Facebook account with a friend request from him. My heart was racing and I was ecstatic. We started talking a bit, but nothing really interesting or attention-seeking for me to develop. But one night, we started a regular convo as we usually would, and it actually got really scary. All of a sudden, he started claiming he wasn't my crush, that he had hacked his Facebook account and knows a lot about me. He knew my entire name, which wasn't written on my Facebook profile. I had put in a weird half-cut version of it. It wasn't easy to guess what it would be the complete one. I had spoken to my crush about how we used to be neighbors, and he moved out of name of my street. Now this creep began threatening me on how he would come get me at my house because I was young and beautiful and his wife is getting old and wasn't satisfying him. He needed young blood. As a 13 to 14-year-old, I was completely freaked out and shaking at my desk chair, staring at this conversation. At one point, I thought maybe my crush was just fucking with me, as he did have this low-key weird personality. I asked him and he sent me a picture of himself that was clearly taken within seconds, as it was blurry and nasty quality. On the picture, an ugly, old, wrinkly 40 to 50-year-old skinny man, looking like he had been on crack. I was going out of my mind, panicking. My mother had warned me previously about how I shouldn't be making a social media account at this age, but stubborn me, I didn't listen. Now I was scared. I didn't want to tell my mother because I knew she'd be dead mad at me. It was around 1 a.m. and I didn't know what to do. I ended up just blocking him and trying to go to bed. I just wanted to move on. I told myself that he was probably just trying to scare me off. I was wrong. About an hour later, I received a phone call on my cell phone from an unknown number. I picked up. It was the man.
I told you I knew a lot about you, baby. Let's talk.
I hung up. At this point, I was just so done with it. Full on panic attack. I woke up my mother and told her everything. She asked me to print the conversations. I did, and she told me she'd take care of it in the morning. The next day I went to school. My mom was working from home that day. When I came back that evening, my mom told me the creep rang on the doorbell around lunchtime, insisting a couple times on the bell and knocking on my glass window. My mom called the police immediately. She took the plate number of his van as he left, as he had left it running in front of my house while he was trying so hard to get an answer from all the knocking and ringing. It ended up being a wanted sex offender that was charged with multiple infractions, including his creeping, trying to get minors. To this day, I still don't have a Facebook and keep my social media extremely low-key. You never know what creep could be behind the other screen.